Welcome to a presentation on the challenges of developing a concise questionnaire to identify privacy personas. This is a joint work by me, Tom Iselli, Enno Steinbring, Franziska Herbert, Gina Maria Schmidbauer-Wolf, and Professor Christian Reuter. We are from the PSEC group at the Technical University Darmstadt, where we conduct research at the intersection of crisis informatics and information warfare, technical peace research, and research on usable safety, security, and privacy. The starting point for this study was the observation that individuals differ and need tailored support according to their privacy knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors. This observation is backed by plenty of research which suggests that users differ substantially in their privacy preferences and needs. For example, demographic differences have been reported regarding privacy attitudes and behavior in a sense that based on age, gender, and education, individuals differ in these privacy dimensions. And consequently, individualization has been proposed as a promising approach for improving users' privacy. Therefore, several approaches try to segment the user space to conceptualize such differing user needs. A classic initial typology was provided by Weston, who identified three privacy personas: fundamentalists, pragmatists, and unconcerned. Several other approaches included qualitative interviews, quantitative questionnaires, combinations of the two from a methodological standpoint. They also combined different privacy dimensions and in the end identified 3, 4, sometimes even 5 privacy personas. And the key question always is, which instruments are used to segment the users and how reliable are those instruments? So the research gap we identified included, first of all, the need for a concise questionnaire. While there were several very comprehensive clustering approaches, none of the previous approaches have tried to cluster users in a time-saving manner, which, however, would be quite beneficial in a practical context. Furthermore, we targeted knowledge and behavior as the two privacy dimensions with a high practical relevance and missing from the literature. In this context, often a thorough methodological evaluation of the questionnaire used is missing from the literature. But since this is the basis for defining really accurate privacy personas, we placed a special focus on this issue. And in the end, we wanted to determine privacy personas based on these dimensions of the self-developed questionnaire. So taken together, we wanted to answer the research question whether a concise, methodologically sound questionnaire can be developed for defining a user space with distinct privacy personas using a knowledge-behavior ratio. To answer this research question, we developed items separately for assessing privacy knowledge and privacy behavior based on the literature, and then conducted a representative survey with German citizens. The methodological backbone of our study were multiple confirmatory factor analysis that we conducted. So how did we reduce our initially quite big item set of 81 items to 11 items in the end? Initially, we conducted an item analysis to make sure all items have a sufficiently wide range as well as reasonable item difficulties and a reasonable discriminatory power. Then we conducted multiple factor analysis, and in this context, we excluded items with multiple clearly outlying local fit values, because these values indicate that the respective item is rather unspecific and the model does not accurately predict its values. And the goal here was to be rather strict and further reduce items to arrive at a very concise questionnaire. With this, we arrived at 11 items for the final questionnaire. On the basis, we also conducted a cross-validation for which we split our sample prior to the data analysis. So just very briefly, this is what the final model looks like on the left-hand side, with 8 behavior and 3 knowledge items and the corresponding item formulations on the right-hand side. We can't go into detail here, but Important is that the factor loadings marked in red reveal first weaknesses of the model, with only a few being above 0.70, which would be good, and few items also being above the bare minimum of 0.40. So the loadings are quite low, and I'll get to these methodological issues in a second. On the basis of this questionnaire, we conducted a data-driven clustering, which suggested 3 clusters and thus 3 personas to best describe the available data. We termed them fundamentalists, reporting high privacy knowledge and strong privacy behavior, pragmatists, reporting medium knowledge and medium behavior, and unconcerned, reporting low privacy knowledge and weak privacy behavior. However, the clustering here can only be considered a very rough approximation because of severe weaknesses of the questionnaire with regard to model fit, reliability, and validity. While the global model fit indices were satisfactory, a bit less so in a cross-validation sample, but still reasonable, especially regarding local fit, weaknesses emerged. And the specific values here are not relevant. What's relevant is that statistically significant residuals remained in the model, indicating misloadings of certain items. And this in turn indicated that those items were rather unspecific and might also have loaded on the other factor, meaning a knowledge item might have also loaded on a behavior item and vice versa. And since this pattern was visible in both samples, this casts doubt on the stability of the presumed two-factor structure. Besides these model issues, further weaknesses regarding reliability and validity were apparent too. Alpha and omega as measures for reliability showed satisfactory values above 0.70 only for the behavior scale, but not for the knowledge scale. Also, average variance extracted as a measure for convergent validity should be above 0.50, but was actually just above 0.30 for both scales. And this means that in the end, more variance remains in the error of the respective items than in the variance explained by the latent construct knowledge or behavior. So this is a bad thing, and we cannot argue that we established this convergent validity. So even though HTMT as a measure of discriminant validity was satisfactory, these issues of local model fit, reliability, and validity severely undermine the quality of the questionnaire. So taken together, the 3 identified personas are not new per se, even though we identified them on novel dimensions. However, as previously stated, they can only be considered a very rough approximation due to the low signal-to-noise ratio of the questionnaire. The thorough evaluation of the questionnaire suggested that it cannot be considered a reliable and valid instrument. And actually, this evaluation process sheds light on the differing quality of potential instruments, and that such differing quality of instruments used to determine privacy personas might actually be one of the reasons for the heterogeneity in the number of privacy personas reported in the literature. And therefore, the quality of instruments should always be considered when drawing conclusions regarding, for example, privacy personas. These results have some implications for research on privacy personas, but also on any other privacy-related phenomena which are examined using questionnaires. This includes the consideration of ordinality of liquid items, because often liquid items are treated as interval scaled during the statistical analysis, which is technically incorrect. And I did not dive into this topic during this talk, but we chose a robust estimator in our factor analysis to account for this ordinality, which in turn makes model selection more difficult because standard comparison methods are not available when choosing between a reduced versus non-reduced model, for example. So this is an important issue to keep in mind. Furthermore, cross-validation is absolutely indispensable, especially when items are dropped and models are respecified, because we always run the risk of artificially inflating model fit in this process. Furthermore, construct validity should be verified when questionnaires are used, especially when questionnaires are used which are not established. And this also includes evaluating the local fit and not only relying on the global fit. Furthermore, the broadness of conclusions drawn of a study must be directly related to reliability and validity coefficients of those instruments, because they represent, among other things, quantifications of the signal-to-noise ratio of a questionnaire. And finally, transparent reporting is absolutely important and enables other researchers to assess the quality of instruments and facilitates further validation efforts. I want to close with a rather trivial but nonetheless important reminder, which is that the description of privacy personas and other constructs can only be as accurate as the instruments used to determine them are methodologically sound. And with this, I thank you for your attention. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.